Hello friends, this is your friend back with a new fanfic. What if Naruto revived the Senju clan and built his own harem with Tsunade, Part 1. If you like this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's start. It was just a typical day for Tsunade Senju. Doing nothing but paperwork. Every Kage's arch nemesis. And she hates paperwork. It's been a month since she's became Hokage, as the Senju heiress was just casually looking at some boring paperwork. Paperwork that she loathed. She should be drinking, eating, and no doubt gamble. With a sigh she would get up and walk towards the window of her office looking down at her grandfather's village. Shifted her eyes to the Hokage monument, soon her face will be on there next to Minato's. She moved her gaze over down at the populace of Konoha. Seeing the villagers do their daily things as usual. Her eyes went over to a mother and her child walk away from THR store from her window with happy smiles on their faces. A hint of sadness would come on the busty Senju's face as she went back to her seat and sat back down at her desk slowly gazing at some pictures on her desk. Picture of her, her sensei and both her teammates. A picture of her and her younger brother Naoki Senju. Then another picture of her and Dan. A mental image appeared in the Senju heiress's mind. Visualizing what it would be like if Dan was alive. She dreamed of marrying her beloved Dan. And have his children, since back then the Senju clan was just down to her and her little brother Naoki Senju. Sadly her little kid brother died on a mission. Had he been alive perhaps he could have helped continue the Senju bloodline. With him dead, she was all what was left of the Senju clan. So she wanted children from Dan to at least bring a child into the Senju clan. Of course Tsunade and Dan had before. She was hardly a virgin. They only had say once, and so on she's been trying to at least conceive a child with him. Then on that fateful day, her beloved Dan died. On mission 2, an ambush, from enemy Shinobi, which broke her heart. After his death she discovered something since she wasn't showing any signs of pregnancy. She had ran a diagnostic on Dan's seed that she kept in the Konoha sperm bank in the hospital. She learned that Dan was infertile. His sperm was low and poor, which broke her heart further that Dan couldn't even get her pregnant. Her dream to have his children is gone. It was after that she lost the will to try conceiving with anyone. She still feels the desire to have a child. Jiraiya had been constantly begging to sleep with her, in which she gave it a shot. However, the moment she tried doing it with Jiraiya she was disgusted by Jiraiya's pathetic tool in between his legs. He was small and has warts all over his. She immediately rejected him and threatened that if he ever spoke of this to Shizune or anyone she'd kill him. He was small while Dan was between 7 and 8 inches. There was no hope for the Senju clan, no one worthy to get her pregnant. Knowing it's a possibility that if she dies, so will the Senju clan. Her eyes shifted over to a picture of her and a young Kushina Uzumaki. Someone else she cherished as a surrogate daughter, whom is also gone. If only there were any Uzumaki men around. But sadly they are extinct. A trade secret. She had learned something very naughty from her grandma Mito Uzumaki. Her grandma Mito was drunk and had told her that Uzumaki men are way more developed plus with the insane Uzumaki stamina as well. Not to mention the females have that same Uzumaki stamina. She in a way is partially Uzumaki herself on her grandmother's side. It's a shame, really. She wished there was at least one Uzumaki male ally. Her honey brown eyes widened as she gasped. There is one Uzumaki male alive. Her thoughts turned to a certain blonde-haired jumpsuit boy. A light bulb clicked above her head. Maybe there is hope for me, she thought with wide eyes at the realization. Maybe, he is the answer, she added. Apparently there is one Uzumaki. And he's right here, in the village. An unfamiliar lustful smile appears on her face. As she had an idea, she has to know if Naruto is developed. Like the all Uzumaki men she heard from her grandma Mito. But there's one problem. She doubts Naruto knows. Unless, she teaches him. Which shouldn't be hard to do. Besides he's registered as an adult now in the Shinobi laws. Due to him being Uzumaki he likely gets it from the Uzumaki side rather than the Namikaze side. Since Uzumaki genes are superior according from Mito Uzumaki. Not to mention he has the Kyuubi inside him which makes him an insane powerhouse. She wonders though, if she goes through with this, will Kushina ever forgive her if she were to die? Would Dan be disgusted in her turning to a boy? How would Mito, her grandpa and grand-uncle react to her going through with this? No. No time for sentimental thoughts. She needs to get pregnant. She refuses to die, without at least having an heir or some children to keep the Senju bloodline alive. Her womb demands to be impregnated and swollen with life. Neiko. Tsunade calls out. Yes, Hokage-sama. Neiko says, bowing to her leader. Bring me Naruto Uzumaki. Tsunade commanded as Neiko nodded her head and vanishes in a swirl of leaves. If she goes through with this, there is no turning back. This is her only chance. And Naruto is her only chance and hope to revive the Senju clan. She just hopes the rumors she heard from Mito are true about Uzumaki men being more developed than other men. Plus in a way she's helping him too, bringing more life to the Uzumaki clan. In return for her giving her what she wants, she will promote Naruto to Chunin. She will give him whatever he desires if he can surpass her expectations. She will also have to break his silly crush on that Haruno girl. Since she seems more interested in the Uchiha brat. He needs a real woman in his life. What about Shizune? How will her student react to her going through this? She doubts Shizune would understand. It's best that she keeps Shizune in the dark about this. Since this is personal. She heard the doors being opened, making her turn to glance at Neiko and Naruto. Thank you, Neiko. Dismissed. Naruto stepped forward. Tsunade says sternly as Neiko vanished, leaving just Naruto and Tsunade alone in the office. Am I in trouble? Naruto asked, stepping forward to her desk. As she smiled at him. Of course not, thank you for coming on such short notice, Naruto. I've called you here to take you to the Konoha hospital for a checkup. She says with him raising a brow. A checkup, he repeated. Yes, it's been long since you had one, right? She says. Well, I can't remember when the last time I had one at the top of my head. He answered. She smiled at this. Come with me. We are going to get you checked out for your physical and I will be examining you personally. She says, getting up, heading for the office doors as he followed her. Will Shizune-chan come with us? Or could I try to get Sakura-chan to come join us? He asked as Tsunade gave him a stern look. Shizune has other things to tend to, and no, Sakura can't come either. This is private. You wouldn't want anyone to know anything private about your physical, right? She says, seeing him frown lightly. She didn't want Shizune to butt in and get in the way for what she's about to do. And she really doesn't want his bitch of a teammate coming. I guess, he replied. Good. Now let's get going, she says, smiling at his innocence. He won't be a boy anymore after this. Tsunade had taken Naruto to the hospital. Taking him to a private section of the hospital, she told him to wait in the hallway until she calls his name. Now inside the private hospital room, Tsunade was setting up everything while Naruto is to wait outside. She had set up sound barrier seals all around the room so no one won't hear or dare eavesdrop for what's about to unfold in this room. Besides, this private section of the hospital is labeled for S rank. Anyone who tries going to the private section who isn't authorized to come to this part of the hospital would be put to death. When he comes in, she'll lock the door. Well, she has a stretcher bed for him to lay on for when they get it on. Perfect. Everything is set. Now time to get him some medicine. She smiled, pleased with everything she's done so far. Now that leaves her to get dressed. She would proceed to change her clothes. Wearing an all-pink nurse outfit with a pink nurse hat on her head. White stockings on her thick muscular thighs, the pink nurse outfit clinged tightly to her thick body, making it look tight on her, as she wore pink shoes and pink gloves. Now let me bring him in, she says. With Naruto currently sitting outside the hallway waiting for Tsunade to call him inside. As he looked both ways, he's never been to this part of the hospital before and wondered why Tsunade brought him here. Come on in, Naruto. He heard Tsunade call out to him as he stood up from his chair and would walk into the hospital room. Once he did, he saw Tsunade in a whole different appearance, seeing her in a pink nurse outfit that looked too tight on her, as she held a notepad. He faintly blushed at her appearance. Like what you see, Naruto? She asked. Ah, you look nice, Ba-chan, he says. Normally she would sock him for calling her that, but right now she didn't care, she needed to focus. Why thank you, Naruto. Are you ready for your physical? She says with him nodding. You bet, he says with his usual smile and thumbs up. And so, Tsunade checked Naruto's weight, his height, and would begin to draw his blood. Along with everything else. Well, you look healthy, Naruto. I strongly suggest you should start taking vitamins. She says with him raising a brow. Vitamins? He repeated with confusion. Yes, I have something I want you to take. She says holding a glass of water and a vitamin bottle. Here, I want you to try one. She opens the bottle and gives him one. Well, I'll give these a try. He says taking the vitamin and tossing it in his mouth and would gulp down the glass of water to swallow. Tsunade smiled as he did this. So, she asked. The vitamin tastes strange, and he says feeling a strange sensation run through his body. What's the matter? She asked. I don't know, I feel strange. He says feeling hot for some reason. Ba-chan, I'm hot, he says as she touched his forehead. Oh my, you are hot. Here, let me get something. She says turning away to find something as she bended over. She was doing this on purpose, she wanted to give him a good view of her. Naruto watched Tsunade bend over. As he stared at her. As she swayed her fat sideways while she was looking for something in the cabinet, seeing her wear a pink thong underneath that nurse dress of hers. Naruto couldn't stop looking as his cheeks reddened and feels a sensation that he was not familiar with. He immediately looked down to his jumpsuit pants. His growing, it's literally poking in a tent. Ba-chan, my, he was too embarrassed to even say it. She immediately stopped and turned to face him and glanced at the throbbing member that was threatening to pop right out of his jumpsuit. Oh, what's wrong? She says with fake concern in her voice, looking at the throbbing growing that's currently forming into a huge tent bulge in his jumpsuit pants. Behind her fake concerned expression was lust. Now she must see what he's like. My, it hurts, Ba-chan. It won't stop getting big. He says, trying to push his hard erection down. It suddenly got big when I looked at your butt. He says, admitting that he stared at her, which made her smile. Here, let me get a good look. She says, walking over, but Naruto looked up in concern and shock. Wait, you want to look at it? He squeaked incredulously. Well, I'm a doctor, right? It's my job to see what's wrong with my patient. So let me have a look. I can't help you if you won't show me. She says, waiting for him to do it. Do those pills have some kind of weird side effect? He says, grunting in pain. His is throbbing violently and won't stop getting bigger. Tsunade looked at the pill bottle of vitamins, in which really wasn't vitamins but rather Viagra. Well, I see a side effect of swelling. I want to see it, Naruto, now. She said sternly. Naruto's face turned completely red, as he had no choice but to unzip and discard his clothing and underwear once he did. His stood up fully erect as it twitched. Holy shit. Tsunade says mentally with her mouth agape and eyes widened in shock at how big Naruto is. She was unable to look away, looking at his swelling big balls. Why is it so big? Am I considered a freak now? He yelled in shock at the size of his junk. Tsunade was frozen, as she stared at the most fattest she ever laid eyes on. Her nipples hardened in her nurse outfit. Her suddenly began to get wet. He is hung as a horse. So the rumors about Uzumaki men being more developed are true. Grandma Mito. You lucky bitch. Tsunade says in thought as she suddenly walked over to Naruto, inspecting his huge length, inhaling his scent and musk. From it as she firmly grasped it, suddenly getting a reaction out of it, it twitched from her touch. She immediately pulled out a measuring tape and could see that Naruto was indeed rivaling a horse's shaft. Naruto was damn near 17 inches. And Jiraiya had the nerve to brag about how big his junk was, yet his is small and looks like a small pencil with warts all over it. Hence why Jiraiya could never get any woman do the deed with him. Orochimaru didn't count, because he's gay. He's much bigger than Dan, she added in thought, feeling the sheer thickness of it. As she touched his balls, she could feel the cum inside them churn and pulse when touched. Ba-chan, are you going to help me or what? It hurts. It won't stop hurting. Can't you do something to make it stop? He says, still grunting, feeling the effects of the Viagra growing stronger. Why yes, I'm going to help you, but you must help me first. She says, not taking her eyes off his. What is it? He asked. You are going to help me get pregnant. Tsunade says lustfully. Pre-pregnant? He repeated, confused. Yes, you are going to put a baby in me. She answers, seeing him look more confused. Now Naruto was a boy of very little brain, since he doesn't know where babies come from or how they are made. No one has never taught him the birds and the bees, since his education was highly sabotaged when he was in the academy. How? He asked, wanting to know how can he put a baby in her. By doing this, she says, leaning up to him, cupping his cheeks and planted her lips on his. Naruto widened his eyes as Tsunade kissed him fully on the lips, as she slid her tongue in Naruto's mouth. With his tongue being coiled by hers, Naruto was suddenly taken in by her kiss, moaning as Tsunade explored his mouth with her tongue. Both moaned, as she used her free hand to grasp his huge, stroking it. Oh, he moaned, feeling Tsunade still kiss him, and stroke his. She would pull away. Come. She guided him over to the stretcher as he sat down. Let us both help each other, Naruto. Think of this as training. I have a deal: if you help me get pregnant, I'll promote you to Chunin. If you succeed my other expectations, I have more offers for you, offers that you wouldn't ignore. She says, lustfully waiting for him to accept as Naruto perked up at the mention of getting promoted to Chunin if he does this. Really? He says with her nodding. Absolutely, she replied. Sure, I'll do it. He says with conviction he'll do anything if it means to show up on Sasuke. This is something he couldn't pass up. He realized he could be the only member on his team ranked as Chunin, since neither he, Sakura or Sasuke were ranked Chunin if it wasn't for the invasion. He couldn't wait to see the look on Sasuke's face. Good boy, now pay attention. She says, undoing her nurse outfit. Getting herself complete for Naruto, showing off her voluptuous curvy breathable body. She has huge double J cups since she has the biggest in Konoha according from Jiraiya, curvy wide hips that's meant for childbearing. Not only she has a huge rack, but her backside she has a whole cake back there. And so fat and plump that it was impossible to hide or even ignore. A small patch of blonde hair on her throbbing fat cunt with plump lips that desires to be. Tsunade's body is the literal definition of breathable. Naruto's throbbed and twitched in excitement at seeing Tsunade's plump body. Tsunade grinned as she stepped forward and got on her knees and couldn't wait any longer. She brushed her tongue against his, licking it, earning a moan from Naruto as she keeps licking his all over. She was tasting him. My Kami, he tastes so good and salty. She thought, hearing his moans as she leaned down to and lick his swelling balls. Feeling his cum inside his sack churn inside. She could tell she was waking his swimmers up inside his balls. His balls are heavy, probably full of cum. I want that sperm. She would him off now. Oh, Ba-chan. He moaned, blushing as he felt Tsunade put her mouth on Naruto's. Him. Your mouth is so warm, and it feels good. He says while she hungrily on his. Harder. She was in heaven. She was deep-throating his shaft, moaning. As loud slurping noises filled the room that they were in. Her was soaking, as she him off hard. She swirled her tongue around his head, while resuming to continue deep-throating him. Naruto was panting and moaning, feeling Tsunade him off with her mouth. It felt so good. He was blushing. He gripped the sheets to the stretcher tightly. MMMPHH, MMMPHH, Tsunade moaned as she harder on his. She wants him to come. She wants to consume his sperm. Oh God, I needed this so bad. It's been so long since I've done this. She thought with lust. She suddenly felt Naruto's throb and twitch in her mouth. Tsunade. Something is coming out, he says with a grunt, and without warning he unleashed a huge thick gallon of cum right into Tsunade's mouth and throat. The busty Senju's eyes widened when she felt him blast a hot gallon of his thick cum into her mouth and pouring it down her throat and into her belly. He's coming a lot, she says in thought as her cheeks bloated, as you could hear audible gulps from Tsunade's throat. She was swallowing it. She didn't want to spill any of Naruto's precious sperm. She slowly pulled off of his, without spilling any sperm, as she gulped whatever she had left in her mouth. Some of his cum shot at her face, as she was covered in his thick white creamy essence. My Kami, so much cum. It's so thick and hot. She thought, licking the remaining cum off her face. Oh, Ba-chan, what is that white stuff? He asked. He hoped he didn't pee on her, knowing she'd be disgusted and probably pissed off and would beat the daylights out of him. But she looks like that. Naruto, is your cum. It's baby batter. That's the stuff you use to get any girl pregnant. But you must dump your cum inside their womb, which is their sacred place to make babies. She explains to him what it is. Dan never cummed this much. When me and him had say, he only produced small loads. She thought, feeling disappointed in Dan, disappointed with his low sperm count and disappointed that he couldn't get her pregnant when he was alive. Ba-chan, it's still big. Naruto says, making her snap out of her thoughts and gazes at the still throbbing. Licking her lips, she knew what must be done. Lay down, Naruto. She says, with him doing just that. As she soon straddles herself onto Naruto, positioning herself above his. This is it, no turning back now. If Naruto succeeds, I am making him my personal breeding stud. Where only me and my future Senju daughters can only get bred by him. So the Senju clan can expand. I'll gladly give my body to him. I want him to make my body swollen with his babies. She thought with a lustful smile with hearts in her eyes. Picturing herself swollen with his babies. One hand resting on her large pregnant belly. Prepare yourself, Naruto, she says, and without wasting any time she inserted his into her. As she let out a lustful scream. With Naruto also grunting in pleasure. Ah, it's stretching me. You're stretching my. She yelled in lust as she feels his shaft literally stretching her fat cunt. Oh, Kami. I am inside of Ba-chan. I am inside of her. Naruto yelled as Tsunade rode his thick, taking in his whole length. Quote exclamation mark quote. She screamed in euphoric pleasure, feeling his entire shaft go past her G-spot and straight into her womb. She used her muscles and her Herculean strength to grip that. As she bounced herself on his hard, making her body jiggle and wobble, her fat made loud claps and plaps in the room. Oh, it's tight around me. Naruto moaned out, feeling Tsunade's clench itself around him in an iron grip. Oh yes. 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 Yes, Naruto. She screamed out, slamming herself onto him. As she pinned him down with all her weight and strength. Her squeezes him, fully intending on draining that Uzumaki. Oh Kami. He moaned. Do you feel good, Naruto? Tell me, do you feel good? You feel so damn good in my. She moaned with a twisted ahegao expression as she panted like the horse she was. This insane pleasure she was feeling was so intoxicating. Dan never made her feel this way before. It's probably because Naruto's is more pleasurable than Dan's. Dan could barely go past her womb like Naruto is doing. Yes, Ba-chan. This feels amazing, he replied through grunts. As he looked up at Tsunade in lust, she continued to ride him, causing the stretcher to break due to her slamming her huge on him. But Tsunade didn't stop riding him. He gripped her wide hips, digging his fingers into her soft cheeks. Good. Let's keep it. I want you to get me pregnant. She screamed to the top of her lungs. As she started riding him faster and more harder, with her mind focusing on one thing. Getting bred by this young Uzumaki stud. Ba-chan, that tingly feeling, in my. Naruto says. Oh, getting close. Yes. Give it to me, Naruto. Knock me up. Breed me. Let's make a family. She screamed in euphoric lust as she felt Naruto's throb and twitch inside her as she rode him one last time, and then Naruto released all his cum into Tsunade. Tsunade let out a lustful howl, as she feels Naruto's sperm flood her, and womb. He pumped so much cum in her womb. Tsunade twitched in pleasure. Her eyes turned to hearts. She could feel Naruto's virile Uzumaki sperm impale her eggs, successfully impregnating her. Ah! Naruto moaned, still coming inside Tsunade's. He did it. I can feel his sperm assaulting my eggs. I'm definitely pregnant with the amount of sperm he's pouring into me. She says happily. Naruto breathed as Tsunade panted, looking at her womb that's filled with Naruto's cum. Did I do it? He says, looking at her as she smiles down at him, stroking his face. Yes, you did, my Uzumaki stud. As promised, you are now a Chunin. She says, getting up off him with cum leaking from her cunt as Naruto smiled. Since you succeeded where others failed at. You and I need to talk. Talk about us. Our future, Naruto. She says, looking at him in full happiness. Our future. He repeated. Yes. Let's go get cleaned up. We have so much to talk about, she says, giving him a kiss on the cheek, making him blush. It was time to make arrangements for her Uzumaki stud. He will live in the Senju Clan compound with her. Teach him more about and to sexually please her. Since she's going to be wanting him a lot more now after what just happened. Break that silly crush he has for Sakura. And have him be interested with women who are worth his time. Maybe influence him to knock up others to revive the Uzumaki clan. But only she will pick who's worthy to be bred by her Uzumaki stud. But for now, he's her stud until he's ready. She needs to strip him from Team 7 and Jiraiya completely. While having words with both Team 7 and Jiraiya. Punish those who harmed her Uzumaki stud and had a hand in hurting him. She'll make his rank as Chunin legal since he wasn't late like that Uchiha brat. That's another thing she's going to crush. It's time for the Senju clan and Uzumaki clan to be recognized as the village's founders here. It's time she gives this village a good sharp